Valen's POV.
Rolling over on the couch, I am woken by noise up the hall. I rub my eyes and can feel that Everly is awake. Hear her at the back of the place, rummaging around and doing something. I try to go back to sleep, but when I hear tiptoed footsteps in the hall, I crack an eye open to see her go to the front door, whispering under her breath to herself. I sit up, wondering where she is going so late at night. I hear the door unlock, then relock before hearing her footsteps again.
What are you doing?
I grumble and she jumps startled. Nothing. Was making sure we locked the door, she answers before padding off back down the hall. Now awake, I go to get a drink, yet she felt off through the bond. It made me wonder why she felt scared. The scariest thing in this damn place was lying on the lounge. Did she really think I would let someone in to get to them? Lying back down, I try to go back to sleep. I was in that part of sleep when you are asleep yet also not. My ears prick at soft footsteps, only this time checking the balcony doors. What is she expecting, someone to scale up the side of the hotel? I watch her trying to ignore the nagging of the bond when she goes to the front door again. You already checked it, I say, and she stops, and I could just see her from where I was standing in the hall. She rubs her temples and goes to walk back to our room when she pauses and walks back to the front door.
Everly, I said you already checked it.
I growl at her. I just need to be sure, she mutters, and I listen to her twist the locks and relock them again. I click my tongue and sigh, listening to her walk off again when Marcus tugs on the mind link. You just got home? I thought the company driver was meeting you halfway. Why are you up? Marcus asks. They did meet us halfway, Dad and I took turns driving. And to answer your other question, because Everly keeps checking the damn locks. You two still not talking? He asks. I don't want to upset her. I have nothing nice to say right now, I admit, feeling like a damn asshole, but didn't know what else to feel. I was angry and words stung, so I didn't want to throw them out in anger and upset her. Try and get some sleep. I will be by at 7 a.m. to pick you up, he says, cutting the link. The last thing I wanted to do was go see Nixon, but after what we found out off John the First, needed to investigate, though I don't see him being cooperative. I try to sleep. I catch a couple of hours when I hear the damn lock twist on the front door again. Ignoring her, I listen as she checks the balcony doors, then the kitchen window. She was driving me up the damn wall, but when I heard her check the kitchen window, I sat up. Valerian would struggle to fit through it, let alone any ninja that managed to scale up the building. She rushes back off to the bedroom and I shake my head, laying back down and closing my damn eyes only to feel eyes on me a few minutes later. Unease rolls over me and I knew she was awake. What I wasn't expecting was to open my eyes as I rolled over to find her next to me. I near shit my pants and jumped out of my skin. She jumps in fright when I do and I groan, clutching my hair. What? I snap, annoyed. I had spent all damn day and night in a fucking car and now all night with her, waking me up every goddamn second. I growled at her and sat up only to notice her blanket and pillow on the floor next to the couch. The look on her face made me feel like a prick for snapping at her when it clicked into place. She said nothing, but I don't miss the way her lip quivers as she stood up to go back to the room. I grip her wrist as she reaches to grab her blanket, and I can feel the tremble in her hand. I lift the blanket and tug her on the couch with me. The stupid bond. She rolls into me, and I slide my arm under her head so she can bury her face in my neck. She says nothing and falls asleep almost instantly, while I found myself now unable to sleep, trying to understand her strange action and the weird look of fright, but also humiliation on her face, like she was caught doing something she shouldn't. Her breathing evens out, her heart rate slows, falling in sync with mine, and her scent calms me as I tuck her closer and eventually fall asleep. The following morning, however, I wondered if I dreamt it, because I was on the couch alone and Valerian and Everly were nowhere to be seen. I reached for my phone to find missed calls from Marcus. It was 10 a.m. I open the mind link and feel for Marcus' tether. He answers immediately. Why didn't you wake me? I snarl at him. I tried, but Everly said she kept you up last night and to let you sleep. Fuck. I'm getting ready now. All good. I canceled with Nixon until tomorrow. He said he had to leave the city anyway. I sit up and rub my face. What time? I ask and yawn. 11 a.m. tomorrow. Go back to bed, Marcus says, but I shake my head before remembering he can't see me. No, I need to check the homeless shelter anyway. Make sure you wake me tomorrow. I don't care if I am tired or she keeps me up. We need to get this meeting out of the way and see his reaction, I tell him. Okay, well, John just got to Zoe's place with Everly, so I should go, Marcus says. Wait, Everly is with you? Where is Valerian? At school, she dropped Valerian here at 5 a.m. this morning and asked us to run him to school so she could get an early start on her mural. Zoe and I dropped him to school for her. So she didn't take him to see John and Claire? I asked him. No, Everly didn't want to upset you and bring him, though Claire looks pretty upset he isn't here. Is Everly okay? I asked him, slightly worried since she didn't wake me. I didn't even hear her leave. Yes, why wouldn't she be? Because she kept checking the damn locks all night. She seemed frightened. Yeah, Zoe does that. Drives me nuts, anxiety. Zoe takes medication for hers, but isn't so bad when I am here. Old habits die hard, Marcus says with a sigh. What do you mean? The girls, Zoe said they hated living at the back of the hotel because it was so close to the reserve, paranoid about Forsaken breaking in and taking the kids. Apparently they had a few scares there. Everly must have been scared. Anyway, I know she said she is going to the homeless shelter later. Her sign is finished, so she going to watch them set it up at 1 p.m. Maybe you will catch her there. Okay, thanks. Mind link me if John tries anything, I tell him before I cut the link. Walking to the room, I shower to try to wake up. Pondering what Marcus said about the girls, did that mean Everly didn't feel safe here with me? I didn't understand it. She was fine before, and it's the first time I had seen her do it. Getting out, I got dressed and I couldn't believe I wasted an entire morning. Since I knew Everly was going to be at the homeless shelter, I made sure to meet her there so I could take her to her appointment. I go to my father's place for lunch, then I drove over to the homeless shelter to see a crane lifting a huge sign on top of the building, but my eyes were drawn to the mural that was out the front. Climbing out of the car, I could see she had finished it, but my footsteps halted as I stopped at the front gates and stared up at my mother. Everly, I could see, was guiding the men on the cherry picker, telling them the sign wasn't straight as they attached it above the mural and front doors leading in. My eyes roamed over the huge mural. Last time I saw it was a blank canvas, which had me questioning what she was doing. One side of the doors was the woman I remember from the pictures I had seen that Everly had shown me. She had used the photo, but instead of Everly, Zoe, and Macy beside her like the photo, my mother's arm was tossed over the shoulder of Emily, and her son stood between them both. I felt like an asshole. She got up this morning to finish this despite us arguing. Emotion clogged my throat as I stared up at the women that influenced my mate most and made her into who she is today. Dad's words came back to me about how the rogues were all she had, and seeing my mother up on the wall, I now knew what he meant. This was my mother, but also hers, and now I understood why Everly went ahead with her challenge. It wasn't just for the rogues, it was for Mom. She wanted to fix the one thing she couldn't. Walking over to Everly, she stared up at the sign the men were placing in the brackets. She was covered in paint and sweaty from the hot day. I wrap my arms around her waist and she jumps. Thank you, I whisper, kissing her cheek. She sighs and points to the sign. I look up and watch as the men peel the white film covering the sign and revealing the sign beneath. Valerie's place, where your village begins. Now no one will forget her name, Everly whispers.
Everly's POV.
I worked on this mural all morning, and I finally had the sign arriving today. So when Dad and Mum left after lunch, I headed back over to the shelter when I got the text message saying the sign was ready to be placed. The meeting with my parents went well, but the PAC's finances were destroyed. Dad was using loans to pay off loans, which only gave him more debt, and I had to think of a way to absolve all the debt. I was in over my head, and with Valen not speaking to me, I didn't know anyone that could help without selling off the PAC assets. What savings I did have weren't enough to cover the debt and the hotel, and I wasn't about to ask Valen for the money. Then there was the contract between my father and Nixon, who held the PAC as collateral to the debt my father owed, and I didn't have millions packed away. Dad had kept up his repayments, but all those repayments were loans from the bank too. All the PAC businesses were in the red, but luckily I noticed that a few of the loans taken out were through two of the banks owned by Valen's PAC, so maybe I could have the interest rate lowered or relinquish those businesses back to the bank to remove those debts without filing bankruptcy. I paid most of them straight off today, but the larger sums I had no way to cover, and then there was the debt to Nixon. I had called Kalen and asked him about it since he handled most of Valen's accounting, and he said there was no way around the contract that was drawn up, that now that debt was mine because it was put on the PAC's finances, not on my father's personal finances. Which left me with two options: sell what remaining assets my father's PAC has or try to get a loan, which I didn't want to get into more debt. Dad had 6 months left to pay off Nixon or the PAC, and all its assets and land belonged to him. Dad still owed him $1.6 million, and I knew my hotel's land alone was worth more than that, but I wasn't willing to give it up. That place wasn't just mine. So now I was debating to see if, once fixed, if Valen's PAC would buy it, so I wasn't losing it, and neither were the rogues, but with how angry he was, I wasn't sure if he would help even if it was his mother's. Pulling up at the homeless shelter, I checked on Macy and Zoe, who left a little before me to pick up the kids and meet me here. They were inside the rec room, putting up the last finishing touches. It looked great inside, and I quickly kissed Valerian before rushing back out. I checked to make sure the paint was dry first, and it was. Seeing Valerie up on the wall made tears spring to my eyes. Out of every mural I had done, this was my favorite, maybe because of its meaning. I just hoped Valen liked it and the one I did inside the rec room. I watched as they put it up and instructed them to move the bracket a little higher on the left as it was a little crooked, and I knew it would set off Valen's OCD that he believes he didn't have. They set it in the brackets when I feel arms circle around my waist, and I am tugged backward against his hard chest. His scent enveloped me. I was so preoccupied I hadn't even realized he was here. "Thank you," Valen whispered, kissing my cheek. I looked up and pointed to the sign. Valen tilts his head up to see, and I watch as the men peel the white film covering the sign. "Valerie's place, where your village begins." "Now, no one will forget her name," I whispered. "Is that Mom's handwriting?" he asks, choking on emotion a little. "Yep, I used the letters and blew it up so I could transfer her handwriting," I tell him. Turning my face to his, he rests his chin on my shoulder. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you," I told him. "I'm sorry, you felt you needed to hide it from me," he says, kissing the side of my mouth. "Do you like it?" I ask him. "Love it." "Then, come on. I want to show you something else," I tell him excitedly. "There is more?" he asks, and I nod, grabbing his hand around my waist and walking to the front doors. I grab 2 hard hats and drop one on his head. Valerian's, Casey's, and Taylor's voices reach our ears, and Valen squeezes my hand. "Valerian is here?" "Yep, the girls picked the kids up on the way over after Dad left. We promised they could help with this part. Valerian asked me last night. They helped me pick out the frames last week," I tell him, tugging him down the hall. We stopped in the mess hall that had been done up as a huge living area for those that came here. It was the first place that Valen had done up. It had a kids' play area, 3 huge dining tables, and on the other side was done up with a huge TV and couches. But the walls looked bare, so I wanted to do something in here too, so it felt more homely for those staying here. Valen stops at the double door leading in and gasps. Valerian spins on his heel, noticing his father, and squeals, rushing over excitedly. Valen stares around the enormous room and scoops Valerian up when he rushes over. "What's wrong, Dad? Don't you like it?" Valerian asks when seeing his father become teary-eyed. "No, I love it," he chokes out. All of Valerie's banners from her protesting days were framed on the walls. Along with the blown-up newspaper articles about her efforts to change the city were also blown up and framed. On the far wall was another painting I did of Valerie, using the photo of her standing on the cop car, a banner raised above her head which read "No PACs, one people." It took up an entire wall. This is who Valerie is, and despite Valen not knowing her, he would know how many lives his mother changed. Valen sets Valerian down, and Valerian tugs him over to the wall that was full of handprints, rogue handprints. Everyone that knew Valerie had put their handprints on the wall and wrote something about her on each one. Hundreds sat on the wall, showing how many lives she had touched over the years. Macy and Zoe come over to me. Macy rests her head on my shoulder, and Zoe leans against me. "She would love this," Zoe says, and I nod as I watch Valerian point out his handprint, his red, "My Nana." No, she would ask why we are dredging up the past and tell us to get back to work. Macy chuckles, and so do I. She was right, Valerie was a tough cookie to crack, yet when she did, she crumbled. Valen stood by the wall reading each one, and I moved away from the girls to go over to him. I touched his back, and he looked down at me, tears trekking down his face. "It's dusty in here," he grumbles, wiping his face. "Pretty sure I saw someone cutting onions back there," Macy says, coming up on his other side and gripping his shoulder. He laughs and tugs me closer, hugging me and kissing the top of my head. Reaching over, he grabbed Macy and Zoe to embrace us all. "Thank you," he says to all of us. "You should be proud, Valen. She was an amazing woman. I wish you got to know her as we did, but we will always remind you of who she was, and there is no bigger reminder of her than the woman who carries your mark," Zoe says, and I smile sadly. I feel him nod against my shoulder. "Fuck, the dust is terrible in here," Macy mutters, and Valen laughs. "Fucking terrible," Valen laughs. He lets us go and wipes his face and looks around. "This is amazing," he says, and I couldn't agree more when my phone beeps in my pocket. It was a reminder to go to the ultrasound. I pull it out and sigh. "Want me to take Valerian?" Zoe asks, but I shake my head. "No, he can come with me," I tell her, and she nods before rushing off to wrangle the kids, and I look at Valen nervously. "You're still coming with me?" I ask Valen, and he gives me a funny look. "Of course, you aren't alone this time, Everly. I will be right beside you every step of the way," he says, draping his arm across my shoulders. He tips my chin up to look at him. "Mine," he whispers, leaning down and kissing my lips before his hand drops to my stomach. "Ours," he says, rubbing my belly. "Don't ever doubt that. I will never leave you to do this on your own, not again, no matter what," he says, kissing my temple. I sighed, relieved. I don't think I could do it again by myself. The last time I had Valerie, she was a godsend, but I would have if I had to. "Come on," he whispers, holding his hand out to Valerian. He waves to the girls, and we go to the doctor in Valen's car. Pulling up at the doctor's, nerves kicked in, and Valerian asked why we were there. "Because Mom has to get a checkup, and then we get to see the baby," Valen tells him. "Will we find out if the boy wrestling worked?" Valerian asks. "No, not for a while, and it will probably look like a jelly bean," Valen laughs. Valerian scrunches his face up, looking confused. This time around, it was different. My father was not here to demand I abort, no judgment, no worry as I waited for the urine test to come back. Once it was confirmed, Doc took blood samples before leading us down the hall to where they did ultrasounds. "You can lie down," Doc says while motioning toward the gurney. I lay on it, lifting my shirt, and Valerian watches with avid fascination as the doctor squirts the jelly on my belly. He fiddles with the device, and after a few minutes, we hear the heartbeat, and I sighed, not realizing how worried I was about the fetus. During the challenge, I was so concerned with protecting my stomach that I could hardly fight. I was making sure to pick my moves and keep my abdomen out of reach. I would hate to see a replay of it because not much action happened in it. Dad was worried about hurting me, and I was concerned about hurting myself, so it probably looked more like a synchronized dance than an actual fight. "There we are," Doc says, and I peer up at the screen. He takes some measurements of the sac before I squint at the screen when he moves to the next. "Wait!" I gasp, and Doc chuckles. "I wondered when you would notice the other one," he laughs, and Valen looks between the doctor and me. "What's wrong?" he asks, sounding frantic. "Nothing, Alpha, both heartbeats are strong," Doc says, and Valen sighs, leaning back. "Wait! Both?" Valen shrieks, leaning forward and looking at the screen, and making Valerian fall off his lap. "Yep, you're having twins," Doc tells him, and his eyes widen. He looked horrified, and I laughed at his face. He looked like he was calculating some math equations. "Two? There are two in there? Are you sure?" he asks, looking at my stomach. "Yep, definitely two," Doc says, pointing at the screen to show him. "That is so many diapers, we are never gonna sleep again," Valen whispers, shaking his head and trying to wrap his head around it. Twins, Mum is having twins? Valerian gushes. Yep, you are going to have two brothers. This is awesome. Can they sleep in my room? Valerian says, cutting me off. I laugh, and Doc chuckles. What if they are girls? Doc asks. Nah, Mum and Dad promised to wrestle in the boy way, right, Dad? Valerian says, tapping his father's shoulder while Valen appears in shock. Yeah, right in the boy's way, Valen mumbles, staring at the screen. See, I'm gonna have two brothers, Valerian declares. If you say so, Doc laughs.
Valen's POV.
Doc laughs at Valerian, who excitedly bounces the balls of his feet as the doctor points to the two beating sacks. Yet I couldn't sit still. This was too much information to process. I expected one. Was it hot in here? I tug at my tie, and Everly reaches for my hand when I stand up. I was overheating. Doc falls silent again. He squirts more jelly on her belly, turning the screen away for a second. He clears his throat and tugs on the collar of his shirt. I stop my pacing and notice him becoming a little nervous as he moves the device. Valerian was babbling happily about the twin brothers he thinks he will have. His nervousness had me uncomfortable. Why did he turn the screen away?
Doc, is everything all right?
I asked, now suddenly frightened something was wrong with my twins I wasn't expecting.
Maybe you should take a seat, Alpha.
Doc says, and I froze. Something was wrong. I glance at Everly, and her fear is just as bad. Everly leans up on her elbows to look at Doc. Take a seat, Doc says, and he motions toward the chair. Yet now he had me panicking. I didn't necessarily want twins, but the thought of something being wrong with them made my heart race faster and my stomach dropped. I shake my head.
Just spit it out, Doc.
I snap, becoming annoyed. It appears I was wrong about there being twins. I clutch my hair and let out a breath.
Oh, thank the goddess.
I sighed. It's not twins? Valerian asks, pouting.
No, I found another heartbeat.
I nod along at his words. Thank God I wasn't looking forward to never sleeping again. What? Everly shrieks, but I saw two sacks. Doc holds his hands out in an apologetic gesture. I know she was outraged, but this was a good thing. I planned for one. I was wrong. I found another, so you're having
triplets,
Doc says, and I blink. I must have heard that wrong. Triplets, I murmur, looking at Doc, and he turns the screen. Yep, Everly is 5 weeks along in baby A, B, and this one baby C was hiding behind the other. I thought it was a shadow. Doc says while pointing at the screen. My vision tunneled and his words faded away along with the room. I fainted. My head pounded as I opened my eyes to Everly's worried face hovering above me. She taps my face with her hand before sighing. Thank God, and why are you fainting? You don't have to carry them, she laughs. Please tell me that was a dream. Are we having a litter? I mumble incoherently. No, there are definitely 3. We finished the scan while you were, napping, Everly says, holding up the scan. I snatch it off her and peer up at it. I will give you both a moment, Doc says, leaving the room. We are having triplets. I repeat, trying to wrap my head around that information. I had some super sperm. I should be selling that shit. This was a damn nightmare, and she was getting her damn tubes tied afterward. Valen? Everly says, staring at me worriedly. Man, how embarrassing. You didn't tell anyone I fainted, did you? Everly presses her lips in a line and shakes her head.
Nope,
she says, but I could feel her lie. Who did you tell? Marcus, you were out for about 10 minutes. I thought I was going to have to carry you back to the car, she says, and I huff. Great, he would never let me live it down. Did you tell him why? No, Doc said it was too early. Best not to announce it until I hit 12 weeks. That makes sense, but I knew Valerian would blab to the girls. His excitement was kind of annoying, yet also contagious. I look at the small scan in my hand before getting to my feet.
Give me your keys. I am driving,
Everly says, holding her hands out for them. I reluctantly give them to her before following her out to the car. Triplets. What the heck was I going to do with triplets? I pictured one baby, and I ended up with a damn litter. Well, almost. My head was spinning the entire way home. Valerian was chatting away happily about his baby brothers. Please, Moon Goddess, be boys. He would be on the warpath otherwise. Valerian was already picking out names, and they haven't even got a brain yet. Literally, a heartbeat, and that is it. She was only 5 weeks pregnant, so we still had 35 weeks left.
Are you all right?
Everly asks me. I swallowed. Mentally, I prepared myself for 1, but now there would be 3. 3. Yep, fine, I tell her, a little embarrassed that I fainted on her. Thankfully, the drive home was uneventful, but I had so much to do tomorrow. Marcus and I were going to visit Nixon tomorrow. Everly told me her plans over dinner. She was meeting with her father's accountant and checking over some business accounts. Both US were going to busy. I had just put Valerian to bed when I heard Everly curse from the living room. Walking out, she turned the news up. What is it? I asked, but she holds a finger to her lips when I see Nixon was in some sort of conference meeting with one of the news channels. I move toward the couch and sit beside her. She turns it up a little more. So this is why Nixon didn't want to meet today. He was doing damage control. I growl as I watch him give some sob story, which I knew was a lie. My father told me the real story. He handed himself in, knowing we were onto him. He tells the news reporter he was trying to find a cure for his sick daughter, leaving out the part he abandoned her to her mother. Instead, claiming she had been sick all her life, and he was trying to find a cure, that he had top leading scientists working on a vaccine. He knew we were going to uncover everything, and we blew our chance. He painted himself a saint, so when this came out, he already had an explanation. He made it look like Leah, his mate, dumped her kids on him, including a sick baby, before running off with another man. What is he doing? He is admitting everything? Everly exclaims. Damage control. He knew he was about to be busted. Nixon covered his tracks and got those in the city on the side. We listen a little more, and it was clear to me this was his way of covering up. He then says he tried to offer me the vaccine for Emily and Ben, but I refused. He was trying to save his reputation while destroying mine. Everly's phone starts ringing, and so does mine. Pulling it out of my pocket, I see it is Marcus calling. I quickly answer it. Are you seeing the news? Nixon is being broadcasted across every station, Marcus tells me. Yep, I am watching it now, I tell him, and I hear Everly on her phone talking to someone. It only takes me a moment before I realize it is her father. Dad, slow down, let me think. You need to calm down. I will think of something, I hear Everly tell him when the mind link also opens up, and my father's voice rushes through my head before utter chaos ensues when every pack member suddenly starts trying to alert us through the pack link. Everly screams, clutching her head, and my head spins as voices flit through the open link. Dropping my phone, I race to her before booming through the link.
Don't use the mind link. We are aware.
I order my pack before shoving them. They would give one of us an aneurysm. I help Everly to sit on the couch before flicking the damn TV off. John, I could hear, was calling out to her, and I looked around for her phone and found it on the floor. Picking it up, he screeches in my ear. Everly, what's going on? Do you need me to come over? John says, sounding rather panicked. She is fine. The pack link overwhelmed her, I tell him, moving into the kitchen. What is it you want? We already know of Nixon's bullshit interview. I rang for the same reason and also to warn her that Nixon has told me if I don't verify this to the media, he was stopping Claire's treatment. Fuck. I curse under my breath. I fill a glass with water, take it back to Everly, and pass it to her, watching as she sips it. What happens if she doesn't get the vaccine? I ask. She will eventually turn forsaken, John says. I have another dose, but it will hold it off another month. She needs that vaccine every month. I am sorry, but I have no choice, Valen. I growl. He gets up there and states Nixon's claims are valid, and it was going to cause a rift between all the packs and the rogues. Wait, you have one vaccine left? I asked. Yes, so? John says. Give me the vaccine. I will see if any of our doctors can replicate it, and if we can't, then go public as he wants. I haven't got the money to fund a science team. Everly has seen my PAX accounts, John tells me.
I will pay for it. But if you have to go public, you out Nixon, you tell them everything, even if you are involved in any of it, you go public. It will force him to hand the vaccine over to Claire and buy us some more time to prove a case against him.
I tell him, and I see Everly's head turn to look at me as she listened in on the conversation.
Or better yet, we beat him at his own game, tell them about Claire, paint him as the hero and tell the city he promised to give her the vaccine free of charge. If he backs out, and I know he won't, it would backfire on him, and it gives us time to work out a cure while she receives treatment.
I tell John. I could hear John talking to Claire in a calm voice before returning to the discussion. I get seen going over there. Nixon will know we are talking, John says, and I look at Everly. We go over there. Nixon will definitely know, yet one of the rogues might be able to meet John somewhere.
I will send Macy to the service station near your place. Give it to her.
I tell him and we discuss details of the time, etc. Everly uses my phone to ring her and gives Macy her father's number. Once we hang up, we wait.